Hello, and welcome to another episode of Purlfect Pairings. My name is Gayann, she, her.
And my name's Nicole, and my pronouns are she and her.
We'd like to start today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're recording, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. We also like to acknowledge the often fraught relationship between the Australian farming industry and Indigenous land rights. Lastly, we acknowledge the contribution of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people to the Australian fibre arts community, and that's been going on for millennia.
Well, what are we here for today?
We are here to discuss finished objects.
Yay! It's been a while. When was our last one? I think maybe back in early January, possibly.
I reckon. But look at this. Ta-da!
20.
All right. So if you follow us on Instagram, we're at Purlfect Pairings. You will have seen photos of our Clee sweaters. This is a beautiful, beautiful pattern by Midori Hirose.
And we did have to post them on Instagram a little bit early because Midori Hirose had a knit-along or a cowl, or I think in Japanese it ended up being a dal, D-A-L. And we wanted to participate in it, and so we had to show our finished objects before the end of March. So, but there will be more photos to come.
Now, this sweater has been quite a journey, especially for me, because there are something like 18 colors in this yoke. And I actually had decision paralysis when I was trying to figure out what colors to make. I actually couldn't figure it out. The yarn that we've both used is Holst Super Soft, and they have an amazing array of colors for you to choose from, which is one of the reasons why we kind of chose this yarn. So I ordered the 18 colors, and then once I had them, I couldn't actually figure out the order that I wanted to put them in. So I decided less is more, and I think there's I've used 9 colors in a, it's not quite a fade, but
it's
dark
to
light, and then light to dark back.
Mirrored kind of. I used all 18 or 19, including the main body of mine colours, and how did I do it? I kind of, initially I largely selected colours that I liked, but as I assembled them all in my cart, I did go back and kind of swap out a few that I thought didn't necessarily go with the others. I think we all know, I think for those of you who have been watching us for a while, I'm a much more haphazard knitter generally. So I pretty much lay mine out on the floor and paired things up and kind of put them in rows, and we'll share a photo on Instagram of what that looked like. And just the decision was made in less than half an hour, and I took a photo to send them to Gayann, and then I packed them all into a bag and realized I hadn't written down the color names, so I reassembled the order, and this time wrote down the color names so that I didn't have to refer back and do guesswork from a photograph. It was interesting, as I was going, there were times where I was like, oh, why did I put those two together? But I just powered through that self-doubt, and I think it worked out beautifully in the end. I'm very happy with it.
I don't know that we could actually be happier with the outcome.
Yeah.
This is my first color work project, actually. So I was quite nervous about doing the floats in the back, but I thought the pattern instructions were really good, and it actually felt somewhat intuitive. So I think this is a great first color work project if you want to get into color work.
It's actually very easy, and you're not, you're sort of often alternating 5 stitches of one colour, 4 stitches of the other, and doing things like that. So you're only working with 2 colours at a time. I think it looks a little bit more intimidating than it actually is.
Agreed.
I didn't find it particularly challenging at all, and I love working with different colours. So it's really fun to knit until you get to here, and then it's stocking it.
I know. What else? Oh, this was also another exercise or learning opportunity for me. I really wish I had read through the entire pattern before I started, because there's a neck modification, but it's not until the end. And I think I would have done the neck modification with, it has like that little roll neck and then a very short rib, and that's not until the end. So I have since seen a few that were done like that, and I'm just wondering if I could actually undo it and then redo it, knit it up that way. It's a bit, or I might fold it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a safer option.
And then whip stitch it.
Yeah, I think that's
So
going to be a
make the
safer
neck
option.
a little bit.
I didn't even read to the neck modification, but I tend to be a relatively tight knitter, and I don't gauge. I gauge on my body, so I don't swatch. So I just I'm fairly happy with how mine's sitting. And I should just note, mine definitely doesn't have as much positive ease as the pattern suggests. I think I made a small and then I modified it as I went to fit my body. I'm a very, you don't ever see me standing up. I'm a 5'2". I'm pretty short. So if I have anything too big, I kind of look like a mushroom. So
Should we stand
generally, we can stand up.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
So mine is a much, there we go, we're both in frame. Mine is much more fitted. So it would have a small amount of positive ease, but not much. Whereas
Mine's
yours
got
is
more, I think.
actually to gauge as well, isn't it? Pretty close.
I think we're pretty close to gauge, and I think I made size M1, maybe, or M2. Anyway, I love a boxy fit and a loose fit, so I love how this came out.
I may have even made some decreases, I can't remember.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes I do.
Now, the other kind of magic thing, I suppose, about Holst is it's blooming. So we have, when we soaked our sweaters, we were actually quite excited to block them finally, so we could see how the yarn would come out.
Yeah,
I guess in the ultimate fabric.
when you're working with Holst, it does feel quite crunchy. Because it is a yarn that is very affordable because they don't do the full processing to it. So it still has some, it still can, they say, leak a little bit of dye, although I didn't notice that particularly with my colours.
I did.
You did?
Had, my water was grey, so I did I think 3 rinses until my water was clear.
Okay. I interestingly didn't really get much colour leakage from this one. It's still got some spinning oils in it. So it feels quite crunchy and a bit stiff to work with. But then it does soften up a lot. It does make a big difference. I actually thought it still feels, I guess, a touch scratchier than a lot of the wool that I wear. Having said that, I often, in Australia, we have a lot of access to merino. So I think,
fine.
so I think, as you know, we buy a lot of hand-dyed yarns, and so quite high quality, often quite expensive yarns. It's a bit scratchier than most of my knits that I've worked with, but I do have quite sensitive skin, but I have worn this and I'm wearing it now next to skin, and even in the really sensitive parts, elbow creases and that sort of thing, I haven't had a problem. I wore it
Yeah.
consistently for 3 days on holiday, just next to skin, and I haven't had any irritation. So
I find the same thing. I have no problem wearing it with just a t-shirt underneath.
Yeah.
I soaked mine in, ta-da, some eucalyptus that I got. And interestingly enough, Nicole, you soaked yours just in water, right?
No,
Or do
I
you
soaked
have
mine
soap as
in
well?
in an inexpensive Australian brand of wool wash, which is
Okay.
eucalyptus based, but it's a environmentally friendly but very cheap one from the supermarket.
So I found that some of the different colors actually feel
Yes.
softer than some of the other colors.
Yeah.
So when I put my hand over the yolk,
Yeah.
and I think I found that as well with the blue here, is I think softer than my gray.
Yeah.
How that
I
has
agree.
turned out.
Yeah.
So it's almost a color by color variation on how soft it will become once it's rinsed and washed and blocked.
But I would say if you're not terribly sensitive, I am borderline sensitive skin, and I'm okay with it. If you're very sensitive, it might be the sort of thing that you would want to wear a longer sleeve shirt underneath. But and we've got loads left over, so
Yes.
some sort of scrappy colour work. No, well, not even particularly scrappy. Certainly for all of these colours, I still have
Quite a bit.
quite a bit. So I'll have to find some.
yeah.
Oh, you've got a plan.
I do have a plan. I'll
talk about it in the future.
I
or-
will.
Yeah,
I will.
All right. So
What else have we finished? Well, let's while you're getting ready, because I know you have more. I don't have any more. This is what I've been able to finish, and that's okay.
but you like to start multiple things. You tend to have more whips on the go, and
it's true.
you regularly treat yourself by doing a cast on a tough
I
day.
do love the dopamine hit from a cast on.
Yeah.
And I've had a bit of crazy
You've had
work
a
right
couple
now.
of crazy work.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, this is my other finish off.
Yay.
Yay! So you've heard us talk about in a few episodes now the Louie and Lola locale. So the hashtag is 2023 love locale with a K for knit along, or love locale with a C for crochet along. And I wanted to participate in the locale, so I have made this lovely beanie.
It's gorgeous.
So this is the Beeswax hat by Amy Vanderlaar. Amy's pronouns are she and they, and Amy lives in Melbourne, I believe, so local. And this has been such a fun little project to work on. It's got, and we'll show a close-up, it's got this beautiful bees honeycomb style cable on it. And it's a lovely little sort of slightly loose, slouchy beanie kind of shape. And I've had an absolute joyous time making it.
The color suits you so well.
So this was made with my hand-dyed Tandy yarn. So if you go back and have a look at our hand dyeing episode, and we'll link it in the notes, we talk about dyeing the Tandy hand dyeing workshop. And this is what I've done is I've held, because that yarn was 4-ply or fingering weight, I've held 2 strands of each together and done a mold like effect. Because the colors were so different, it's not a really gentle marling. You do sort of still have some stripes, and I was quite deliberate where I started and stopped things in relation to the pattern. But it's so good. I actually really want to make another one. The other thing that I really loved is I'm relatively new to cables. And I have seen lots of patterns and lots of YouTube tutorials. I'm just going to pop it back on again.
It's so
because
cute. So cute.
I've seen lots of patterns and lots of YouTube tutorials where they talk through doing cables without a cable needle. And every time I've tried to do those, and I've got those little loops sitting out in the air, just floating around by themselves, even just for a couple of seconds, I freak out because I'm actually quite a tight knitter as well. And certainly if you're using softer yarn or smaller width needles, it can feel really terrifying. And I've had a few close calls. So every time I see a pattern that says, here's instructions for knitting without a cable needle, I approach it with some skepticism because I've never had any success. Amy's way of doing cables, so it's just a single stitch cable each time, and it was groundbreaking, absolutely groundbreaking. I won't go through it because it's kind of a bit, well, and it's also maybe copyrighted on her pattern, so get the pattern, have a look at Amy's instructions. But I found it really easy, and I was even knitting this like on a flight with cables, and I certainly made a few mistakes.
It's all right.
Some I fixed, some I didn't. No one's noticed them so far. If you can see them from this distance, you're doing really well. But it's such a gorgeous pattern. And I'm quite keen to make one. I mean,
I can give you my yarn, so you can make one for me out of my yarn.
All right. I am keen to make one with some single coloured yarn as well, so that you can really, really, truly see the texture without any distraction. But such a joyous project.
So, have you gotten anything new lately?
So many new things. So, first of all, my partner had another solo overseas trip without me, so naturally had to bring back presents, and he did extraordinarily well. So I helped him find a really excellent yarn store in Vancouver. He was suggesting a different yarn store, and I was like, oh no, check this one out. So he went to Bad Anna's. Maybe Bad Anna's? Bad. Oh, that's really good. Animal noises. Come to Japan. Come to Gayann. I keep calling you Japan today. Anyway, he went to Bad. Do it again. Bad Anna's. In Vancouver, and got these gorgeous skeins from Bramble Ridge. So these are a honey mustard colour, a rust skein, and leaves, which is a beautiful combination of the two colours. He apparently picked these out himself, although he did say that the person that served him in the store, which may have been Anna, was wonderful and incredibly helpful. So these are, don't know a lot about Bramble Ridge. They're based in Mission in British Columbia, in Canada, obviously. And these are a DK superwash merino nylon blend. And I think I'm going to make a shawl out of them.
Is this the one where you texted me about needing a 3 skein 600 meter shawl?
DK shawl pattern, and you found one
in about 2 minutes.
It was incredible. Yeah. Do you remember the name of it? I've saved it in my Ravelry, but
we'll put it in the
put it in the
show
chat.
notes.
It was Heather Stewart, wasn't it?
Helen Stewart.
Helen Stewart,
who's
Helen
a
Stewart.
local. Local. She's Sydney based or New South
Australian,
Wales based.
designer. So, yes, beautiful work. And then
This is so special.
this is a little bit over the top.
So special.
This is a I'm going to mispronounce it, and I apologise in advance. Nunavut, Kiviut. I think we just listened to some Google pronunciations. This is musk ox fibre. So,
sorry, I haven't felt it yet.
oh, go.
Oh my god.
So musk ox is it's a Canadian beastie. I think that's the technical term, a beastie. That it doesn't have a fleece that you shear. It sheds the inner coat, like its inner coat, and the Indigenous people go around and pick up the fluff and spin it into yarn. And it's apparently 8 times warmer than wool, and what did we read? 3 times softer than cashmere or something.
It's so beautifully soft. Again, for like the 15th time, I wish video had a tactile quality to it. I know I say that every episode, but I mean, we're working with tactile materials, so it's amazing.
It's a completely luxury yarn. This is a 1 ounce skein, 190 yards, 2 ply, and I'm not going to talk about the price.
Don't do
but
it.
It's a truly luxury yarn. So it's just a very small amount.
What do you think you'll do with it?
Well,
Any plans? Yeah.
I do. So my partner, he's very good at this. He even said, like, he was feeling it in the shop, and he was there with a friend. They're both really into luxury goods. I'm a little bit more frugal. And they decided that I simply must have this. And then he did ask at the store what to make. So the lovely person in the store did suggest the Sophie scarf. That this quantity does work up quite well into a Sophie scarf. So probably something, either a Sophie scarf. I already have one. You can't really have too many though.
I don't think so.
Or a similar style of little scarf like that. So I'll have to she did say that there was enough to make a Sophie scarf, so it'll have to be sort of that size project. So super luxury. We'll include a photograph, just a really and a natural, just the twist on it and everything.
Is that a natural color?
It would be a natural color.
It's beautiful.
It's entirely natural. Yeah.
Right. Well, I have a new to me book that I am loving. It's the liner book Stripes by Vera. I think it's Vera Valimaki. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. I should have tabbed the patterns that I love. Oh, there it is. It's because I've opened it so many times. This shawl. That might not be the best picture of it, but there it is. The Mina shawl I love, as well as the and I think Vera's actually doing a knit along, or was doing a knit along for the mare dress, and I just love this too.
Oh, that's cool.
Right. The mare dress. I've actually located a source for the yarn in this pattern in Australia, but I have so many projects that are in my list of things to do that I haven't gone ahead and purchased yet. And I'm also kind of toying with whether I want to go with the original kind of black and white stripes, or do what was funny. You say I use a lot of gray, right? I was thinking about gray and pink.
Oh, that'd be cute though.
I thought it would be cute too.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if I get to that. I've never made a dress before, a knitted one. So we'll see. It looks maybe the vest that I had that kind of turned into a dress. You can look at, that's actually episode 2, I think.
Yes, our Maker episode, we talk about substituting yarn and when that goes right and when that goes wrong, and we get some advice from Emily at Maker. around the best ways of substituting yarn. So.
Well, which is why I wanted to actually use the yarn
Correct,
in the
yeah.
pattern. I wasn't going to take any chances with that. But a lovely book. The patterns seem very accessible. And even if you just like to look at the pictures.
While we're talking books, I should talk about this one. So this was my birthday present from Gayann. I admired this in a store when we went on our annual,
The first annual
Stephen West MCAL shopping trip.
which we discussed in episode 1. So if you haven't
did.
watched that yet, you can learn all about it there.
And it's Journeys in Natural Dyeing by Christine Bija and Adrienne Rodriguez. And it's, look, I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time planning my attack on this yet, but the imagery is gorgeous. If you're into photography as I am, you can get very carried away just in these gorgeous pictures. But it goes through sourcing, natural dyes, techniques. There's a lot of detail there, and I'm, as I've mentioned a few times, super keen on dyeing. Watch this space for more, and so I think I'll have an immense amount of fun with this. I just need a bigger house with a studio, so a dyeing studio.
We can all dream.
Yes, dreaming is good. I'll manifest my dyeing studio. That's how it works, right?
Exactly. Now for the fun part.
Perfect pairings. We've decided that these projects can be paired with wine because this is actually pretty easy. And I was on holiday, so I did actually spend a lot of time knitting this on planes after a beverage, and it was fine. So absolutely appropriate to knit and drink if that is your desire with these projects.
Yep.
So today we've got a really interesting grape variety. I've talked about Chalmers on here before. They're a winery that I really love, a family-owned winery based in sort of the northwestern parts of Victoria. They have a vine nursery, and they bring in a lot of interesting grape varieties, which are then distributed to wineries around Australia. And there's this big move in Australia at the moment to work with more Italian grape varieties because they're often a little bit more heat tolerant and a little bit more suited to climate change and the warming temperatures in Australia. Pecorino.
Never heard of it before.
It's a cheese, right?
Well,
Not
yeah.
a wine.
Yeah,
But
I want it on my
also a
pasta.
wine. Yeah. You don't see it that often. I first tried it years ago in a wine bar where I saw it on the list and was really intrigued by the name. And it is a variety that tends to be, in the examples that I've tried, always really quite aromatic and floral and quite fruity. It's not a style where winemakers use oak or anything like this, and indeed this is made in a nice, fresh, fruity but textured sort of style. So Gayann's written a little tasting note, which I really love for it. So let's hear your tasting note.
Okay, so I smelled it first, right? Did a bit of a swirl and gave it a sniff, and I thought it smelled like apples in a wet, grassy field.
That's a super cute imagery. I really like that. It's also for me a little bit like sort of fig leaf and fresh figs, and quite blossomy. So I'm not necessarily a specific blossom, but just like a bunch of flowers, kind of mixed perfume. Possibly more like, not really heady flowers like roses and that sort of thing, more like a wildflower perfume. Maybe that's your wet field.
Maybe that is. So then I tasted it and gave it a bit of air. And I thought initially it tasted like peaches and lavender. And the finish So I did swallow it, I didn't spit it out. The finish tasted to me like celery. So like a vegetable, but not, I don't know. It was hard to describe that finish, and the closest thing I could come to from a flavor perspective was celery.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good note. It's so again with Italian grape varieties, they're described as being textural, and that sort of means that it does give you, I guess, food-like textures in your mouth. This one's really silky initially, but then on the finish it does have sort of a slightly tangy acidity, which makes it really fresh. But there is a little bit of like a savory, fresh, crunchy celery kind of texture. I really like that note. I think it's really appropriate. Yeah, great notes.
Great.
Yeah, she's learning. Try and steal my job.
I was saying, I'll judge the shows now, right? Like,
we'll send you off to the wine shows from this point forward.
I'll just be like, I like that. 10 points.
So, Chalmers, Pecorino. This is the 2022 vintage. Great little wine. Not that expensive, and it's vegan.
So no egg, right? Is it
Yeah, so
fining agent
sometimes with wines, they use fining agents to just make sure that the wines don't go cloudy once you put them in the fridge and that sort of thing. There's different ways of doing it. Sometimes the quicker way is to use a protein, so egg white or skim milk is sometimes used.
I didn't know that.
There are other ingredients that are taken from fish as well.
Okay.
But this one, none of those. So suitable for vegan people. Yeah. All right.
I think that's it
for today. Nice short episode.
Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up in the box below the video on YouTube. And if you want to hear more about our adventures in yarn or see more of our interviews that we have lined up and coming up, please subscribe. And you can actually subscribe and then ask for notifications if you have that set up on YouTube. And we're also on Instagram at Purlfect Pairings, so you can follow along for more regular updates there.
And we love your comments. So if there's anything that you want to say about this episode, any thoughts that you have, we love to hear from you, and we respond to everything. And thank you so much for watching again.
All right. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting, whatever you like to do.
Happy day. Bye.